Okay, welcome everyone. This is a section on Microsoft 365 versus Microsoft apps. And we're going to see if we can do this with both my account and several others at the same time successfully. So I'm going to double check that we're actually broadcasting here. There we are, and make sure we got audio, and we do. And then we're going to take a look at a couple differences between Microsoft 365 and the Office 2016 products. So let's click into account on both and confirm that we're running Microsoft 365 Office apps for services for enterprise. And on the white side of the screen, we are running the 2016 version of the products. When we look at About PowerPoint, we can see that both versions are 2304, but the builds are slightly different, or the features are slightly different, I should say, not the builds, because of the versions of the software that we are using. So to keep this somewhat understandable, I have also labeled the new version, and I'm using a dark mode theme, and I'm using a white or light mode theme in the older version of the Microsoft 365 apps. So if we go to options in Microsoft PowerPoint, we can see that I've got the Office theme of black and the Office theme of colorful. I don't even have black as a choice. I have dark gray or white in the regular version 2016 of the Office products, and they renamed this M365 apps for enterprise. One of the first things you'll notice is that in the ribbon from the home perspective, I have a designer option on my newer version of the Office apps. This allows me to come up with these really creative ways to introduce our topic with either video or different fonts. Lots of appealing video content here, or animations. Don't have that in the older version of PowerPoint to the right here. However, I do have the ability to swap the screens. So I can actually put the new version of PowerPoint on the other side of the screen from the older version of PowerPoint. Totally up to me in StreamYard how I design these two. Next, we'll look at the Insert tab differences. And you'll notice that I have screen recording in either of these, video and audio, but I have Cameo in the new version of PowerPoint. And Cameo puts in a circle object by default. The circle object can be changed if I choose to different shapes, and I can preview my video, and I can even put my video back behind my text. I have a lot of options there for the integration of this into my slides and the location. So on the first slide, I could put it in the corner where I don't have information. And then when I'm presenting, Cameo turns on that video. I can also use closed captioning by default in the new version of PowerPoint. If we compare this to the old version of PowerPoint, I have the ability to use presenter view. I have some recording functions, but my slides don't have the capability of doing closed captioning. So that's missing from the slideshow menu. If I insert a new slide into my two versions of PowerPoint here. We'll notice that either of these versions have several different themes, and I have even slide from outline, so I can pull in something from Word or another application. However, another difference on this first screen would be the fonts that I have available for use. Tenorite, one of the new fonts out of the 5 that were introduced about 2 years ago to the Calibre family, are available on the new version, and you can see that I have a number of cloud available fonts as opposed to the fonts that are available being downloaded in the 2016 version of the application. So lots of cloud fonts that can come in, and then they seem to be compatible downloading and installing on 2016, just not indicating that they're available to download. We also have a draw menu in the newer version of the Microsoft 365 apps. So I could do things like write my name on the screen with touch, or if I have a stylus, I can use that as well. When we look at the design capabilities, I have very similar options. I can format my background. I have the designer. I have slide size. And I can make this widescreen or regular or do custom sizes. Transitions on the new version include morph. What morph allows me to do is take a set of graphics or words on a slide and make sure that that information glides across in an animated fashion to its new destination. So if I take my text and my ink and I move it around slightly or significantly in size and location, I have the capabilities of putting a morph transition in here and seeing how morph deals with slide 1 to slide 2. So I can highlight the 2 slides, go to my transitions menu, and as opposed to the options I have on my old copy, I can use morph on the right, and we can see what morph will do when we're in slideshow mode. In slideshow mode, we turn on our video, our cameo object here in the lower right, and our ink and our video and our titles move seamlessly like they were animated, but I don't have to figure out how to animate these 3 objects. Morph is another one of those differences that you'll notice under the Transitions tab in the newer versions of PowerPoint. The recording studios are definitely different from a standpoint of PowerPoint. The recording studio in the new version allows you to work with cameo objects. The cameo objects themselves can be changed from shapes. So I could do an arrow, for instance, to draw somebody's attention to something, and then turn my video on and see how my video fits into that. So I can point down or to the sides using different camera shapes on my slideshow. And besides the recording studio, there are several other differences between the versions, including the comments capability. So the older comments in 2016 allow me to make a comment. Hello, please update with slides for sections, Outlook, PowerPoint, etc. but I don't have the ability to @mention anybody. So the message or the comment here just goes out to everyone somewhat equally. In the new version, the comments in the upper right, I can @mention different people. So as long as I save the file to a shared location, this up into my OneDrive, make sure we've saved that file. Now I should be able to @mention people. And then when I @mention them in the new version, it will make sure that they have access to the file. So let's see if we can get that working. Still not auto saving, so I don't think I saved it to a cloud location successfully. Let's save it as a current PowerPoint. Make sure auto, and then @mention, there we go. So I can @mention somebody, use update, slide sections, Outlook, PowerPoint, etc. Now the comment is directed to somebody and I can share the file with somebody else. So much more rich collaboration, whether it's real time with both of you in the file at the same time or separately. Another thing you'll notice besides the recording studio there under the different areas in the new interface are present in Teams as well as record. So lots of differences when you look at PowerPoint on your computer. Microsoft Teams, the nice thing is Teams stays up to date regardless of who I'm logged in as. So if I look at the two accounts and I log in as the different users here, Teams keeps my computer up to date and allows me to use the same types of functionalities across these user accounts. So if I log in here as a separate account, so we're not using exactly the same account in Microsoft Teams, then I add several types of collaboration options between the two users. Under Microsoft Teams, we'll see the teams that I'm a member of. Any common teams will show up. And then common teams can have files. And within those files, I can actually open the files within either teams. If I open them in Teams, I'm using the online version. So I can see the comment and the ref and my newer account that I'm using. So I can sit on slide 3. I can see that from the other computer that Dan's on slide 3 and Satya's on slide 1. I could see changes to the presentation. So if I make changes to maybe the font color, I should see those over here on the other computer as soon as they update. And if I go back to the slide, I'll see those real time. So some really neat features to actually be working on the same thing and collaborating at the same time in Microsoft Teams. Now, if we move over to the Outlook application, and in Outlook, we can see some differences from a standpoint of what we can do with the calendaring functions. And let's see if we can get Outlook to respond here on my second computer. Looks like it's still doing some kind of update. There we go. We just got it. We can see that we did some StreamYard stuff earlier. You can see that I have 2 time zones on the computer running the older version of Outlook, and I actually have 3 time zones on the computer running the latest version of Outlook. That's because the latest versions of Outlook under Options off of the File menu, Calendar, now besides swapping as I'm traveling, I have the capabilities of putting up to 3 time zones in the tool. So instead of 2 and labels and swapping, I can actually swap back and forth between 3 labels. So I can put Illinois, Pennsylvania, and Colorado and decide which is the active time zone for the clock and the calendar in my computer. It's pretty neat capabilities there. So those are just some of the differences that I have noticed between the Microsoft apps that are updated frequently and coined now the Microsoft 365 apps and services, and the apps that have a particular version and date associated with them. In this case, we have the Office 2016 version versus the Microsoft 365 version of apps and services. And we've highlighted 1 or 2 differences in a couple of the apps, and then looked at ways to make the same capabilities available across the versions. For instance, if I take a PowerPoint and I save my demo file, and then we open our demo file from the other computer because we're logged in as similar accounts. Should be able to come down here and find our demo from today. And then take a look at what happens with the playback of our morph transitions. The morph placeholder doesn't understand on the older computer to turn on the video, but the cameo object, but the morph transitions seem to work pretty well. So you might see different things that are compatible in older versions and other things that are just placeholders if you're not using the current versions of the products. So some differences we've seen there as well. Brett, thanks for thanks for the update. I was hoping that audio was working, and I tested that, and I've got the closed captioning on my LinkedIn Live. And what you should be seeing is, instead of me other than the cameo object on my one PowerPoint, the current version of PowerPoint, you should also be seeing the screens side by side. So welcome. Thanks for stopping by. These LinkedIn Lives are nice because they're available when you would like to consume them. So as opposed to LinkedIn audio events, which you have to attend in person, LinkedIn Live events you can install or actually attend whenever it's convenient for you. So you can find these videos later and actually watch and consume the information. If we go over with our same file that we just presented in Microsoft PowerPoint and we tell it to present in Teams, one of the options in joining a meeting in Teams, if I join a brand new meeting here, fire that up maybe without the audio because I won't need the audio for this. Get into our meeting and then tell it to present in the meeting. PowerPoint Live supports the same types of Cameo objects that we saw before. So if I turn on my camera here, we see the same PowerPoint and we actually see the transitions. The benefit to this style of presentation is if I come over here to my chat, find Satya, find a link to my presentation, meeting info, copy my join info, and send that over in a chat. We should be able to pop into the meeting. And then see how PowerPoint Live looks from the person presenting versus the person attending. So the nice thing about this is the person presenting on the right sees the chat. I can see the people in the meeting with me. I can see the hand raise and when people have raised their hand and what order they've raised their hands. People can lower their hands or I can lower hands for people. And I see all of these other rich capabilities like the ability to draw on my slides, using a laser pointer to point out the version of Microsoft 365 that I'm using, and even highlight information on my slides. My viewer on the left sees any video and participants, and they also see the slide and have the ability, if I'm on slide 1 as the presenter, to move ahead to slide 2. However, I can also turn on private view and lock the person from moving through different slides without me. So Microsoft Teams brings a lot to the collaboration that I can do with PowerPoint Live and other Microsoft 365 apps and services. These are just a couple examples of what we can do. Besides PowerPoint Live in Microsoft Teams, we also have capabilities like webinars in Teams. So if I set up a webinar in Microsoft Teams, and let's call this May quarterly event. So we're doing our May event from 365. List my presenters. List whether this event is public or not. And save this event. I then have the ability to list my presenter bios for registration, change my theming for this webinar, configure my registration, including capacity. So if I want to make it 20 people, I can do so. If I want to gather information about their organization, I can do so. And then I have reports as well once people have registered and set up information for my webinar. So my webinar becomes ready. I have a share link. I can put the share link out to others. And Satya and I should both have the webinar available to join. And so we can connect to the event, getting into our webinar, and then people that join our event, go into an incognito window here. Can register. Confirm the terms and conditions of attending. Share the event link. And then I can attend by using the invite that I'll receive in email to this live event or live webinar. So a live webinar gets similar features to the meeting. If I go to my meeting options, I can see however people I invite have the ability to come in and bypass the lobby. I can have co-organizers. I already had specific people set up to present, and I don't allow my mic or cameras for people attending. I automatically record, and the chat is only allowed in the meeting. So I have all these other capabilities with a webinar by default. I can also share my screen or a window in a webinar. And because I have two people presenting in the webinar, either of us have those capabilities to share our screen, to turn on our video, or to arrange things from a standpoint of the video that's being recorded. So for instance, I can pin or spotlight videos. If I'm sharing screens or applications, I would see something different. So I could turn on my demo of my PowerPoint, and then we can see what people are seeing in the webinar from one side versus the other. And what else can we do here? We could share from the other computer. Do I still have PowerPoint open? It looks like I closed PowerPoint. So let's open PowerPoint. Get our old file up. And then we might have to close this and open the share tray again. Apps, PowerPoint, and then we're seeing the PowerPoint in our meeting on the other end. The recording of the webinar is happening as well. So we have the capability to review this or work with the recording after the webinar. And these are just some of the capabilities that you have between the different versions of Teams, PowerPoint, Outlook, We didn't look at Word or Excel this time, but you get the idea with this capability in StreamYard of putting the two screens next to each other. We could certainly compare and contrast features. The final thing we'll see in these meetings are the fact that the user that's not a co-organizer, just a presenter, only has a leave button in the upper right. However, the organizer has a drop down. So if I go into my settings, meeting options, search for a co-organizer, and make somebody a co-organizer here. Let's see if we can do that. Or if I have to do that before I join the meeting. Let's leave the meeting. Or ending the meeting ends it for both participants. Let's go back to our meeting. Go into the details of our webinar. Manage the event. Meeting options. Get into our meeting options. This is probably a rights thing. Who I'm logged in as from the browser perspective. A second, see if it'll work. Let's use in private, and we'll see if we can kick it over to asking who I am. See if that works. Telling it specifically that it's me, not just letting it guess which account I'm trying to go in as. See if it brings up our meeting options. Here we have search for co-organizers. Make a co-organizer. Then do I not have to save that? Let's see if that worked. Meeting options, we'll see if we can go in here or if we have to go back to a private window. Looks like we're better off here. Let's see if we have a co-organizer listed or if the save needed to happen. Yeah, it looks like the save does need to happen, so. Maybe let's switch something else. Language interpretation, search for interpreters. Let's turn off Q&A. Nope, still don't have the show button there. Or the save button. Well, it looks like I need to save that change and it's not allowing me to here. So we'll have to troubleshoot that, but you get the idea. So we've looked at meetings, we've looked at webinars. You also have live events and virtual appointments. In Teams Premium, we can do some other really creative things with webinars, events, and the Teams application itself. So I'm sure now that I've got this working, where I can do two Teams applications side by side, or two different versions of the Office applications, or showing the interaction, I'm sure you'll see other videos where we highlight this type of scenario as opposed to just one screen share on either the Azure and AI show or other events that we run as part of this community. Thanks for attending, everybody. And I hope you have a wonderful Friday evening.